Hello again and welcome to another 140k Genestealer cult video. And before we get into today's nice little bit of heresy, I want to say a big thank you to Nolan Miller for sending in some awesome pictures of his Catachan second. These guys look pretty heretical. Apparently they were taken over by some Genestealer cult bad boys. Don't really want to get into the graphic details, but apparently these guys were taken over by a massive Genestealer fart. So that's why they're now Brood Brothers. Which all I can say is, when I was reading the email you sent me in, Nolan, I was in stitches. Absolutely fantastic. The mighty muscles of the Catachan could not fight back the toxic stench, honestly. Absolutely had me in stitches. Thank you for sending this email in, and thank you for sending in some pictures. They look absolutely fantastic. Definitely look Catachan at the same time. The white eyes and the purple goo leaking out of them looks pretty damn Genestealer cult to me. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page or email them in to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com. As always, I just like to say I do read every single email that I get, and I do read every single comment, and I do read every single post left on the Facebook page. I don't necessarily have time to answer everyone, but rest assured I do read them, and my intention is to slowly but surely, no matter how big the backlog gets, to work through and use every single picture that is sent in to me. If I do miss one, I can only apologise. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So today, guys, I want to do a Genestealer cult tactic video, or should I say Genestealer cult tactic video. And the reason is I've not been talking about Genestealer cult too much recently. I've been going back to basics. You've seen the third Riddick film. It's like, and I have to say, the Riddick films are one of my guilty pleasures. They're just like they're so bad they're good, but they're just fun. But anyway, I've got to go back to the primitive side, the wild side. I've got to go back to my guard, right? I don't think my Mordians would appreciate being called the primitive side, but I won't tell them if you won't. Anyway, point is I've been doing a lot of focus on the guard recently. How can we tackle this beast, this ungainly thing that is 9th edition? And whilst the guard are not in a great place, by applying some general rules of let's just drown them in bodies, we can hold our own. We can go out with our heads held high and at least have like a 50-50 win, which for what some people consider a trash tier army is pretty good. But there's another trash tier army on the block, another red-headed stepchild of 9th edition, and that is Genestealer cult. And if there's one army that's struggling more than guard, it is Genestealer cult. And they have had some wins. There has been the occasional tournament list that has popped up and caught the complacent meta by surprise, but by and large they're in a tricky spot. Expensive characters and whatnot for an army whose codex was built around the concept of the 8th edition system of having a lot of CP available. Now that system's turned on its head. Yeah, the Genestealer cult in a tricky place. So what I want to do, preamble, 4 minutes in this effing video, and I still haven't talked about tactic, is I want to start doing a few more Genestealer cult videos. How can we make these bad boys work, right? Now, the one concept that I've had some pretty good success with, and I've actually managed to pull out a couple of wins in 9th edition with this tactic, is playing my cult less like their classic 8th edition way of a few bombs, like Biker Bomb or Aberrant Bomb or Acolyte Bomb, less like that, less on individual wombo combos, and more on almost running them in a guard-like fashion. Now, I'm very fortunate. I kind of built my original Genestealer cult army like this before branching out. But one of the things that I've been having success with is taking a strong mix of Genestealer cult and Brood Brothers. Okay? That strong mix is actually, I've had some success with that. Now, not necessarily against any top tier armies, don't get me wrong, but I've managed to pull out some wins with that combination. And so what I want to do today, guys, is start pushing this narrative a bit more. It sounds like propaganda. It is the 41st millennium. It's the 21st century. Propaganda's all allowed. But the point is I want to start pushing this idea that don't just write Genestealer cult off. You know, like the hive mind, adapt, overcome, survive. That's what Bear Grylls does, and Catching and Bear Grylls, it all works, right? So one of the things that I've been doing is I've been going back and I've been rereading the heretical texts. I've been rereading the Genestealer Cult Codex, and I've been rereading the Greater Good supplement for them. Okay, the Psychic Awakening, because fortunately all like the errata and stuff is in there. So by and large, all the rules for the army, all the changes, everything is in there, which is good. Now, one of the things that I previously got wrong, this could also be a bit of rules you get wrong with you. One of the things I got wrong, guys, was Brood Brothers. Okay, now I'm not talking about Brood Brothers, the unit that's in the Codex. I'm talking about the Astra Militarum detachment, okay, that you can take. So going forward now, when I refer to Brood Brothers, unless I define it, I am referring to Brood Brother detachments in the Codex, in the Astra Militarum Codex. Okay, but you know what? I won't be lazy. I'll specify each time I'm doing it. That way there can be no confusion, because there will be some times where I'm going to chop and change. You know what? I'll specify it each time. I'll call them Guard Brood Brothers or regular Brood Brothers. Okay, there you go. So, one of the things that I misunderstood is I used to think that Brood Brothers could not benefit from the Unquestioning loyalty rule, whether they were Cult Brood Brothers or Guard Brood Brothers. I didn't think that was the case. Now, for those of you that don't know what the Unquestioning loyalty rule is, essentially what it allows you to do, and I'll get the exact rule, but what it allows you to do is jump in front of, have little guys jump in front of your characters to allow them to survive. Right? So what we mean by that is so if you have a patriarch and there are a bunch of neophytes or acolytes, or in this case all varieties of Brood Brothers nearby, whenever your patriarch takes a wound, before he takes that wound, one of your plebs, minions, can jump in front and go, "No, look out, master!" and jump in front and die for him. So the exact rule is Unquestioning loyalty, so fanatically devoted to Genestealer cultists that they would die for their masters. Each time you fail a saving throw for a cult character model, and each time a character model suffers a mortal wound, before inflicting damage, check to see if it is within 3 inches of any friendly cult or Brood Brothers unit with this ability. If it is, you can select one of those units and roll a d6. On a 4+, you do not inflict any damage on the character, but one model in the selected unit of your choice is slain. Otherwise, the character suffers damage as normal. Let's just double check this. Before inflicting damage, so before you roll the damage roll, check to see if someone jumps in front. If they do jump in front, before you determine the damage on a 4+, that model jumps in front of it. Okay, so it's a bit like the Tau shield drone. And everyone knows how obnoxious shield drones are, right? It's a bit like the Tau shield drone. Now, imagine this scenario, right? So someone shoots your patriarch, someone power fits, someone thunderhammers your patriarch, okay? You get to roll your invulnerable save first. You got to roll that 5+ invuln. And if you fail, you go, okay, before I take any damage, on a 4+, I'm going to jump in front of it with a pleb, with a guy, with a minion, with a dude, with a nothing person, you know. And then that last cannon wound is absorbed. The model is slain. You don't roll the damage. So, firstly, that's really cool. Secondly, it's Brood Brothers. Okay, now let us continue down this rabbit hole. Okay, this isn't necessarily a quick tip tactic, by the way, guys. I haven't done a Genestealer Cult video in a while, and we're going to take this step by step and follow it through properly. We're going to do it the Mordian way with a Genestealer Cult video. Don't read into it too much, don't call the Inquisitor. Anyway, so, Brood Brothers, right? Are you ready for this? Okay. Several Genestealer Cult units also have the Brood Brothers keyword. These units can be included Genestealer Cult attachment without preventing other units from getting the Cult creed. However, Brood Brothers do not get a creed. In addition, to represent Astra Militarum forces that have been subverted, you can include Astra Militarum units and Genestealer Cult units in the same match play army, even though they don't have any common faction keywords. In such cases, ignore the Ashman units when choosing your army's faction. Okay. If your army's battle-forged, you can only include one Ashman detachment for each Genestealer cult detachment. Blah blah. Let me read ahead a bit. The Ashman detachments are then known as Brood Brother detachments, and every unit in them that has the regiment or military tempest keyword must replace it in every instance on its dead sheet with Brood Brothers. Okay. If you does not have these keywords, it simply gains the Brood Brother keyword. Okay. Now I'm just checking here. Attachments do not gain any Ashman attack. Then it goes on to talk about Ashman attack stuff. The Brood Brother detachments don't gain the Cult Ambush ability. That's fine. So anyone who's a Brood Brother from a Guard detachment doesn't get a blip. Fair enough. And that's pretty much it. Okay? You can't order them and blah, 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 blah. But the point is... So you can't order cult ones. But the point is that... You get the Brood Brother keyword. So where am I going with this? Where am I going with this, right? This is something I didn't understand. But it actually starts opening up all sorts of possibilities for this guard, essentially guard cult mix. And it allows you to start playing the objective game. Right. One of the things that is very successful for regular guard, irrespective of what regiment trait you have, okay, is conscripts that are fearless. Now, most guard players have to do this via a slightly awkward mechanic. Like, I've got to take a psych who then uses the psychic fortitude power to make a unit of conscripts fearless. Or I've then got to take an inquisitor to do the same thing to another unit. But these are psychic powers. Whilst they're only warp charge 4, there are a variety of things in the game which make it more difficult to get powers off. And the enemy could always just deny you. They could always just deny the psychic power. And then those conscripts, whilst, you know, the morale system favours them a bit, unless they're Krieg, if someone kills half of them, which is very possible to do, you know, they're not that difficult to make, lose a big chunk and run away, right? So, but with cult, you can put a new angle on this. You can take a patriarch. A patriarch makes everyone around them fearless. Specifically, cult and Brood Brothers, every Genestealer cult unit around a patriarch who's within 6 inches is fearless. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay, so we take what is becoming a premier competitive guard stratagem of taking a couple of conscript blobs, shoving them on a couple of objectives, and they've really got to chew through them whilst all the regular infantry is piling up as well. We take this and we make it better. Because we're like, oh, that's good. I don't have to worry about my power not going off or being denied. I'm just fearless. And the Patriarch itself it's a bit like a Smash Captain, guys. The Patriarch is not to be underestimated by any stretch of the imagination. If we pull this bad boy stats up, some guard commanders are going to be there going, this is pretty good. So you've got a movement of 8, you can advance and charge. So if you move these conscripts up and then manage to get an order off onto them to move, you can do that via the Commissar with mass. Oh, you can't take the Warlord in the Ashman Town Tavern, so forget that, sorry. But you do manage to get that, on a 4 pitch, you get the order off, you move. Patriarch can keep up. Patriarch's got no issue with keeping up there. He also, what was I going to say? Then his actual stats is he hits on a 2+, his strength 6, his weapons are AP -3, they do D3 damage. On a roll of a 6+, they become AP -6 and 3 damage. It's got a 4+ save, 5+ invulnerable save, and then you have Unquestioning Loyalty. So what are we doing here? What are we talking about? Well, this combination of conscripts and patriarchs and other characters really opens up some possibilities. Okay, imagine, if you will, the following options you could do. Now, don't forget, you could do this with conscripts in the guard book if you want to take a big 30-man blob. But what if you don't want to take a 30-man block? What if 20 is enough? Well, then you can do it with your Genestealer Cult Codex Brood Brothers. You can take 20 Brood Brothers there, and it's the same price. It's 5 points per model in a big 20-man squad. Right? Okay, so this whole Brood Brother thing, it really works. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can march up the field with your Patriarch, you know, and he can allow you to sit on some middle objectives, and this will allow you to get, you know, lots of primary points. You can swamp the middle of the board with loads and loads of fearless bodies. And that's one thing you can do. There's no problem with doing that. Another thing you can start looking at is secondary objectives. Things like deploy teleporter homers. Okay? A good way of, in the old editions of 40k, how people used to look at things is, this costs this many points and it can kill this many points worth of enemy stuff. So if it costs 300 points, you want to be able to make its points back, you've heard me use the term a lot, to kill 300 points with enemy stuff. Okay? 9th edition, there's a new metric of measuring. How many points, how many victory points can this thing get me? How many army list points do I spend to get so many victory points? Okay, what about this? You take a Patriarch, you take a big blob of conscripts, or you take a 20-man squad of Brood Brothers, Cult Brood Brothers, and you outflank or you cult ambush in. You get in to the enemy's lines. Your Cult Brood Brothers are fearless, and maybe your Patriarch or another cheap guard. You know, what's the cheapest guard character you can think of? You could take that. Your Patriarch keeps everyone fearless, starts messing around with the enemy's backfield because he's a psyker, and your cheap other support character prepares a teleport homer. Your enemy's got to chew through 30 bodies to stop you from doing that teleporter homer. That's quite difficult. Not that expensive. You could spend approximately 300 points. Would you spend 300 points to get 15 victory points? Yeah, you would. Do you know why? Because if you spend 300 points to get 15 victory points, and then you do that 3 times, you've got 45 points. That could be all your secondaries maxed out. You spent less than half of your allowance, which is typically 2,000 points in a competitive army. You spent less than half of your points to max out your secondaries. So for every 300 points you spend, if you can get 15 victory points, if you can guarantee that in some form or another, before you've even rolled any dice, that's a good way of playing the game. And Genestealer Cult, when you start thinking outside of the codex, outside of the box, you stop thinking on pure killing power and spamming stratagems, and you start thinking about fearless guys that can mob primary objectives. I mean, you only have to score 10 points for 4 turns to almost max out primary. To almost max out. That means for the whole game you only need to control 2 objectives to almost max out primary. And for 1 turn, you have to hold more objectives than the enemy. You might not even have to hold 3 objectives. You just hold 2 and the enemy holds less. There are ways of building your lists, and Genestealer Cult especially, where you can guarantee, right, I'm going to get 15 points for line break. I'm going to get 15 points for repair teleport homer. I'm going to get 15 points for while we stand, we fight. Because I've got 3 Patriarchs or something crazy, and no one can get to them because they are way behind these hordes of infantry. Okay, so what we're looking at here is, I think, Genestealer Cult, you know, we're looking at the death of deep striking in and charging in with a 300 point aberrant unit or 400 point aberrant unit. We're not really seeing the acolyte bombs or biker bombs or anything like that. Killing power is less important. It's what you do to help you score other objectives in a Genestealer Cult army. There are some armies which can just get lots of points for killing, stuff like thin the ranks and bring it down and not the same thing. Yeah, totally. Okay, totally. Okay, but what I'm saying with Genestealer Cult, and what I'm trying to use as this example with Unquestioning Loyalty and Brood Brothers, is that you could take a Patriarch, because your Genestealer Cult characters, you know what, they tend to be quite expensive, which some people see as a disadvantage. I don't necessarily see it as a disadvantage. And I'll get into this later. Because it means they're very likely to be the most expensive models in your army, which means you can get while we stand we fight every single turn. If you turned up with 3 Patriarchs, and yeah, that's like 400 points. You turn up with 3 Patriarchs, it's like, okay, I'm spending 400 points. It's a bit much, but I'm getting while we stand we fight. I'm going to repair every teleporter Homer, and I'm going to get Line Breaker. It's like, oh, okay. So I'm getting or engage in all fronts. There's so many different options you can pick. So yeah, that's a bit of a long video, 20-minute video, guys. I'm going to call it here. But what I want to say is we're going to be getting into some more Genestealer Cult. I'm going to try and do 1, maybe 2 Genestealer Cult videos a week, depending. If I put out 3 videos in 1 week, one of them will be Genestealer Cult, you know. Or if I'm putting out 5 videos like I did this week, you know, 1 or 2 of them will be Genestealer Cult videos. And the point is, we're going to start having a bit of a look at this because there's not a lot of people have written the cult off, and I think it's time we re-examine them. We re-examine them. We come up with some, like we do with the Guard. We come up with some. You may not win every game, but you can go down swinging stuff with them. Okay? Because it took us a while to get this codex. I would be surprised if we're not, you know, if we're not stuck with it for a bit longer. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If anyone has got any cool Genestealer Cult tactics that they've used that have been successful, let me know, and I'll take them and I'll obviously I'll give you some credit and I'll say thank you for the idea and here's, you know, I'll flesh the video out. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.